Well, let's just start off before we get to the nitty-gritty as to how business has been.
As you mentioned right at the top of the segment, there's been more than doubling of digital payments in India. If you look back last 5 years, I think there have been three big events. One was demonetization in end of 2016. The second was GST implementation. And the third is, unfortunately, of course, COVID-related outcomes. And what we're seeing through this is an acceleration of consumer habits and digital payments coming at the forefront of a consumer journey. So when consumers start to do something on internet, any kind of transaction, payments really is at the forefront of it. And we're also seeing an acceleration of people who come in through payments as their first use case, now starting to aggressively adopt other use cases. So for example, the BNPL product, personal loans, credit cards on the financial services side, also wealth management, where we're seeing massive 50% month-on-month growth, partly supported by how robust the equity markets are. But we're also seeing adoption of all types of consumer internet use cases. So all in all, just multiple tailwinds to digital payments in India.
Madhur, so that's, the forecast. The landscape, though, is dominated by you guys. It's never so good to really be the main player. Would you welcome more people and more entrants?
India is the last big internet market in the world. It is a very open internet market. There's a set of rules that everyone needs to follow. And as long as you follow those rules, all players are welcome, Indian and international. As a result of that, competition is going to be there. It is going to be a market which will be of a lot of interest to both Indian companies and foreign companies. We think competition makes us tougher. Competition makes us sharper. Even through the most competitive phases a year or 2 years ago, we just felt that we were executing better. It just gives people more of a mission to work sharply against. We welcome competition. We don't want it to be easy. Easy would be dull. So we're excited about the fact that we operate in one of the most exciting and competitive fintech markets in the world.
So how do you expect to do if you welcome competition, and that's coming from the likes of Google, Walmart? How do you expect to do 2-3 years down the road?
I think there are a couple of things that matter. So product matters. So what you're giving to customers, is that the best experience? And are you giving them all use cases? Are you building that super app, which is very familiar in other parts of Asia, particularly in China? So as we go through this journey where how do we make the consumer experience better, which is to say when they come to our app, is everything intuitive? Also, we develop a whole bunch of Paytm instruments. So it's not just about using UPI, which for certain types of transactions for certain users could work really well. But also we have Paytm Wallet, we have the Paytm BNPL product. All of these make the consumer's life a lot easier. And all of them makes the merchant's life a lot easier, because the merchant does not want to have multiple ways of accepting payments. They want one company to be able to handle all of that for them. So we have for ourselves taken a very broad scope of how we solve problems. So anytime technology can help solve payments problems or financial services problems, we are in that game. Other players, my sense is, have taken a much more narrow view of how they want to play in India, which is frankly easier because anyone can plug into UPI. The barriers to entry are much lower. So they've taken that view. The second outcome of our journey is that it's much more revenue generating because you're building differentiated products. You're not building commoditized products which have very low barriers to entry. So we're building products which are much higher barriers to entry, much less competitive, and as a result, gives us a lot of monetization opportunity as well.
So much emphasis, so much interest in cryptocurrencies. Do you see perhaps Paytm, looking at cryptocurrencies?
We will look at it. The government of India has not sort of come out with final guidelines of what is acceptable and unacceptable implementations of cryptocurrency. And I think it is an interesting technology. But one of the things that we do as a company is we are never in the regulatory gray area. At least that is our attempt, to just absolutely never be in a regulatory gray area. We work closely with regulators. We try to understand their point of view, and we try to try very hard to help them understand our point of view. And then whatever the regulations are, we follow them. So what you wouldn't see Paytm doing is jump the gun and be in a regulatory gray area with respect to cryptocurrency, where the government is going in one direction and the regulators are going in one direction and we're going in the other direction. We philosophically don't do that as a company. But if cryptocurrencies become sort of legal and allowed in India, you would see us in a very high state of readiness.
Martha, are you going to IPO anytime soon? And tell us where and when, if you do know. And the other part of my question would be, would you ever sell yourself to the likes of PayPal or Google?
I'll take the second question first. Absolutely not. We believe in our mission. We believe in the opportunity, not just in India, but in other countries around the world. We are young and hungry and ambitious. We want to build one of the most globally recognized companies coming out of India. That's our mission. We are well on their path. We're not going to shortchange ourselves. With respect to the first question, we are getting to a point where the business can certainly be IPO'd. There's multiple vectors of growth and profitability and monetization in the company that are working really, really well. So we're getting to the point where we do start to look like an IPO-able company. We haven't made a decision as to when and where. Possible options could be India, but also the government is working on a very progressive set of guidelines where Indian companies would be allowed to list overseas, which until now is not allowed. At least your first listing cannot be overseas. But the government of India is working on some guidelines to enable that. I think that opens up more options for us. We could continue to evaluate an India listing or an overseas listing, for example, a US listing. So we'll work through those options. We haven't made any decisions yet, but certainly the company looks much more ready than it was a year or 2 years ago. So we're excited about that potential phase of our journey as well.